Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome.
Someone said on Hotfix that when I do that stupid face, it looks like I have no teeth. So I was trying to prove I had teeth.
Yes,
I don't know what
yes.
it is.
Yeah, no, I said that to you as well on Skype. Yeah, I was
I
like,
need
where's
it.
your teeth gone?
But it looks fucking creepy if I tried it. It's like, what is that expression?
It's a thumbnail. It's the face on the thumbnail. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unit Lost Pubcast. I would pour you a pint, but I can't because I'm not actually in a pub, and I don't know whether that's. But that's.
Well, you only use one hand. You have to.
No, it's so massive, bloke. No, mine's got a holder. I need a mini bar in here, actually. But welcome. What would you like to drink, Mr. Kirioth?
Cider. Always cider.
Well, we've got every variety available.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
I don't know what I'm making, like a cider cocktail now.
I do actually have a cider downstairs in the fridge, but I'm drinking a Lucasade because I've got to drive later, so I'm being responsible.
It's also the middle of the day. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen,
it's 5 o'clock somewhere. That's the rule, isn't it? So as long as it's 5 o'clock, it's fine.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our very relaxed video game podcasting where we just talk about our week in gaming, the games we've been playing, or what's been going on. If you do watch Hotfix, and this is the first time watching this, it's a bit different to Hotfix, because Hotfix is very, and I'm going to do it, Mr. Kirioth, laser focused on the news topics and whatever we're talking about. This, though, is very much not. We just talk about anything and everything, because we play a load of games all the time, and let's just chill, ladies and gentlemen. Hell, tell us what games you've been playing in the comments below. And if you do want to support this show and Hotfix, there is a link up the top over there, which is
in the description,
and in the description down there, which you can go and support this kind of show if you like it on a patron. There we go, or Patreon, but you become a patron. Patreon is such a terrible name, and I always say this is like, what the hell? I don't know.
I don't know why it's not just called. I mean, well, I'm assuming it's not called Patron because they couldn't actually get the domain name Patron.
Yeah, probably.
I'm assuming that's what it is. So it's like Patreon, but Patreon doesn't sound like it. Just spells. It just seems like they spelt it wrong. If you ask me.
Well, whenever I send messages out to people through it, I'm like, hello. Like I always, like I'll call them patrons, but then sometimes I'll call them Patreons. Hello, Patreons. It's very stupid. But anyway, if you do want to support the show, or even Unit Lost in general, because there is patreon.com/Unit Lost, which is for all of Unit Lost, or patreon.com/Hotfix for Pubcast and Hotfix. Anyway, let me start, Mr. Kirioth, with what I've been playing this week. Now, when we recorded the Hotfix, not the Hotfix, the Pubcast last week, okay, we recorded it on a Thursday, okay, because we were offering it early to people who were patron supporters. We have since scrapped that because it is totally not worth doing it because of the way YouTube does it. We would essentially have to put this on a different platform, and it would be a load of work, ladies and gentlemen, and we're not doing it.
It'd be impossible to keep track of, so...
Yeah, it would have been. What that meant, though, was I missed out Friday. So this is where I begin, from Friday, because it was a very special day. Because I played Everquest 1999. Now, I don't really so much want to go into detail on that game itself, but I just want to talk about because like it's the sort of feelings this like renewed in me, Mr. Kirioth. Because, and actually, I read a thing on the WoW subreddit the other day in response to World of Warcraft collapsing in subscribers, and watched a video from a guy who I forget his name, but I think he's a big WoW player, where he was talking about like the way WoW has changed, and like. He was depressed, and I connected with this guy because I felt that way when I played the EQ 1999 modification, because it reminded me of the early years when I played EverQuest 2. Now, not EQ Live or whatever you want to call it, EverQuest 1, way more hardcore than EverQuest 2 ever was, even in 2004, 2005, 2006. But for me, that was the MMO I played, and like you become part of the community, and when things start changing, it's almost like. I don't, you know what, I guess the best way to explain this is, you know your high school, Mr. Kirioth, yeah?
Yeah.
I know my high school, right? I drove past my high school a couple of weeks ago, and it is radically different. It looks nothing like I remember. Like, it's been basically rebuilt. I mean, I don't know what's been going on there. But when you were at your high school, you remember all the teachers, don't you? You remember your friends at the time. You remember what you did. You remember the way the classrooms looked. And you remember all of that. But if you went back there now, right? Even though you've been there, you know, and you remember the way it was, it's very different, and you don't know anybody, and you stand there, and it's sort of like, I don't know what's going on here, and I remember this, but now it's all changed, and when I was listening to this guy and he was talking about the changes to WoW, it really made me think of my time playing Everquest 1999, which is the emulation of Everquest before like Planes of Power expansions and stuff. I think it was at the Kunark expansion, and I think Shadows or Scars of Velius, I forget what it's called, is coming out in a couple of months. This is like pre-2000 EverQuest. This is like hardcore.
Christ.
And they're like, the community in that game, even towards me, where I was an idiot nobody, was like outstanding. You know, I have not. It's been a very long time since I played a game and there's been a community like that. I mean, okay, I was streaming, they were watching me stream and all of that, but it's hard for me to express into words. But I felt like I connected with this guy in the WoW subreddit because I know what that feels like to have played something when it was, you could argue, in its prime and was really, really good. With EverQuest 2, I played it and we went through like numerous expansions, was always the top 1 or 2 guild on the server, and in some cases even in Europe. Now, it's not that much, well, it is an achievement, but it's not like on the scale of like, I don't know, a game with more population, because I think there were only maybe, I think there were 2 English servers in Europe, and there was like a French and a German, and you know, those type of servers, and I think there was an RP server maybe, but there was a lot of American servers, and everybody competed with each other, sort of thing, and we were generally the best in Europe. And you know, I remember a point where it just became pointless logging in because of changes that had happened to that game, where like there was always a big discussion going on, because I used to be a raid leader for a time, so I'd be part of the officer chat, and they'd be talking and it would be like, so and so guild has just killed this raid mob or something, because in EverQuest you had they were called contested mobs that spawned in the overworld where everybody could attack them. They weren't in an instance, like you had to actually, first person there like could start pulling it and you know, attempt to kill it. If you raid wiped, another raid would step in and take their turn, and it was very it was like respectful, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, it's their go, now it's our go. There was never any dicking about like, oh, let's just ninja pull. You didn't do that because it would ruin the name of your guild. But as the game started to change and it became easier, now I don't mean any disrespect to these other guilds, I won't name any, although I can remember some, well I will, Xanadu, they were shit, but and there was other guilds as well. They started to pull out of sequence, and it was like, this was disgusting. You know, we're standing there, we were defiant. It's like, that was the guild name, like, it's our go, what the hell is it? And they just ninja pull. It's like, whoa. And you could see the game was going to shit, but why were they even there doing that in the first place? Because it was easier for those guilds to actually do that, and it made you feel cheap because you knew you were in the best guild, right? And I don't care how sad this sounds, that is like an achievement. You are in, if you've ever been in like something, the best of something in whatever it's in, it was like that. It was like I was a main tank and an off tank for the best raid guild on my server, right? The best guild. We've been around for years. Everybody knows who you are. They respect you, sort of thing, yeah? So when you get an example of just some other guilds turning up because the game is much easier now, and in some cases they would actually kill these mobs, and it was like, we'd be like, this is a joke, what's going on here? You know, we knew we were better than them. Maybe it's like a superiority complex going on, but
yeah,
the fact is, the time was put in, the effort was put in for us to gear up, for us to be highly organised and all of that stuff, and then you would kind of feel really cheap when it became really stupidly easy and there was no point to doing things. And eventually, of course, that led to me, I just stopped playing the game. You know, I used to log into that game and play it, and then it became a case of I'd log in just for the raids, and then it even became a case of I would give my account to the guild leader. He could log in because it's like, what the hell? I don't care, because I knew my character was like integral to the guild for a time, because you always gear your tanks, you know what I mean? The tank needs to, if the tank can take more damage, then it gives everybody else more time to do whatever, you know what I mean? So I would have felt shitty if I left completely and just said, look, I'm not playing anymore, because I've played it for years and I've got the loot, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I've took all the loot for the last 2 months of progression raiding, goodbye. No, you just don't do that, you know? So, but like, I'm sure there are people out there who can relate to what I'm saying, even if it's WoW or RuneScape or anything else, I guess, where things change. And
the thing is, I can relate to that, but not in quite the same way, because the achievements for you was like the PvE raiding, wasn't it? It was the you know, being able to down these bosses that other guilds couldn't do, or at least do them first. One of the reasons I stopped playing Freelancer is because the server I was on changed. The server I was on was the only 128-man Freelancer server you could get to. Like there was no other. It was a modded server, and there was a clan on there called XEF, which stood for Xeno Elite Forces, I think it was. And they were a pirate clan. But they were a pirate clan who had the best PvPers on the servers. On the server, that was it. If ever we did cross-server events, they would be the best PvPers on other people's servers. Yeah. Like, they were the best in the game. And I got into that clan because all I did was PvP. I started out fighting them in another clan, and eventually they were just like, well, you're actually really good at this. Do you want to join? So I immediately deleted my old character, started a new one, and joined them, because that was like, on that server, if you went into a system with an XEF tag, literally everyone either ran away, challenged you to a fight, or just gave you something for not killing them, because it was like, oh shit, it's them. And that was really, really good, and I really enjoyed that. But then the old people, like the group of people I played with, the people that you see logged into the server every day, they'd maybe only log in once every 2 days or every 3 days. And it was getting more popular, which was good, because it meant, more players. But you'd have new players turn up who didn't know who XEF were. So I'd go into his system. Yeah. I'd see like a trader doing a route. I'd kill them. Like, I'd demand that they give me some money, or I'd kill them. They didn't give me any money. They tried to fly off, so I killed them. And instead of it being, oh god, I just got killed by XEF, instead it was, oh, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? I was training, you don't have to do that. And it's like, well, no, the server rules say that pirates can do this, and that's what they're for, and we're the big, there's only like 8 of us. We were one of the smallest clans on the server, but we were also just frankly the best clan on the server. If ever there were PvP challenges,
respect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it
disappears, and then once it starts.
Well, let me give you my example.
It's like,
so my example of that is obviously the tag. Again, like with your XEF thing on your head, if I had Defiant on my head, it was like, Jesus Christ, people knew who you were. I mean, admittedly, more people were on. There probably was a couple of thousand people on the server, and you were known outside of the servers as well. I mean, you were known across like international communities. It was like that guy. He was. I mean, in fact, I remember when they opened up cross-server chat groups, so you could be in a chat room that's in all of the servers, and there was one, and it was like elite tanks, and that was it. That's all it was, and it was just like the best tanks in the game, and we're all in this chat group. And I remember when I joined it, they were like, "Shit, there's so and so from Defiant," and I was like. You know what I mean? Like, I had never met these people, but they knew it was like, holy shit, that's that guy, you know what I mean? Because like Everquest had a night, well, Everquest 2. When I keep saying Everquest, guys, I mean Everquest 2, but I'll keep referring to it like that. It had a nice system where if you looted an item first in the world, right, your name was on the item, on the description. It would say first discovered by, and it'd have my character's name. So a lot of these tanks, it's sort of like they've grown up in the school of like, wow, I remember there was a leg item. When reactive proc started to come into the game. So proc is just an effect which happens on an item. So if you have an electric sword and you hit somebody and the lightning goes off, but there's only like a 10% chance it does. When it does go off, it's procced. That was like the terminology. Well, there were reactive procs on armor. Now, this wasn't a thing before, and this was a pair of leg armor, which didn't have amazing stats, but the reactive proc was an AoE taunt, which was like, okay, that's pretty good. It's the armor, when you get hit, may cast a taunt on a group. Now, I played a Guardian while I had this, when I got this drop. Now, Guardians were like massive, like they were the best tank class for taking damage, right? They were not the best for holding aggro. Like, it was difficult, yeah? There was, you had AA, which were called alternate advancement points, kind of like talents in WoW, right? So, you could use the tower shield, right? And for a time, you were the only class who could use that. So a massive, like, think of a Roman shield, a massive shield, right?
Yeah.
You were good, well, you were okay at single target aggro. So you could probably keep the big boss mob on you. And I say probably because it was pretty difficult. You had to cycle loads of abilities. And you even had to work with the DPS. Like, you'd have to, like, if they were going to burn something down, you'd have to, like, really order your abilities. It wasn't just a case of like, sit there and I'm doing a rotation. It's like, no, you had to make sure you were doing the right thing at the right time, else it would all go to shit. And obviously, if you were controlling the main boss and it went all over and just murdered, because I mean, EverQuest was a game where if the DPS got hit, they died instantly. If the healers got hit, they died. There was no like, oh god, quick control again. It was like, you're just dead. Like, the entire raid is gone. And in some cases, it would be 2 or 3 hours of solid raiding has just gone down the shit can because you've pressed the wrong button. And it's like, Christ. That's why tanks were like so sought after. And this is why it made me feel amazing, because I knew I could do it. And it was like, hey, sort of thing. But
yeah,
going back to the alternate advancement thing, there was a tree you could go down, which was the buckler tree, right? So, small buckler shields, which sounds stupid, because why would you want a little buckler? Because you're a massive, you can use a massive shield. but there was an effect called buckler reversal, right? So you like would reverse the, you'd hit them with a shield basically, right? But it was AoE. So if you pulled a group, right, as the Guardian, you could start hitting them, and every now and again you'd like do the buckler reversal and it'd hit them, right? And that would help with aggro. But he still wasn't that good. The Berserker was the best for holding AoE aggro, yeah? And later on, Shadow Knights and Paladins became pretty good. However, when I got this leg armor, right, that AoE taunted along with the buckler reversal, suddenly I became a Guardian tank that could hold AoE pretty close to a Berserker, and I was way more durable. And it was like, fucking hell, this is like insane. You know, that was like, this is a character now that can do things which it should not be able to do because it can now hold AoE aggro. So instead of having like a more, because a Berserker was just an offensive warrior, right? So obviously he didn't have much protection. I could now take his job and run AoE control. And it was just like, this is ridiculous because we don't have to worry so much about the off tank, which was actually the main tank, because we'd had multiple Guardian tanks, like, so somebody else could do it. But I remember from that item, that leg item, when I joined that chat group, they were like, your name's on this item. You know, it's like an amazing item, you know, and but like these are like stories and things you can never really, I don't think I'll ever do again. I'll never be replicated. I mean, the thing with the tag, you know, defiant above my character's head, I'd stand on the docks at Freeport, and I'd just be like, they would know who I, like idiot noobs would come and be like, wow, you know, I know who you are, and they'd talk to you and they'd be like, wow, you look really good. And it's like, okay, it's cheesy, it's nerdy, it's sad, you may say, but you do feel like you're being respected for your achievements in that game. And it's no different really for like real life. You get respected for your achievements there. It's no different. But when things change and all of that goes out the window because the company behind the game have decided to make changes that are really not very good, and they lose you who are like the hardcore player base, it just becomes like you feel like you've been robbed. It's like, I can't, you know, this is just
is it because that's the thing that finally got me off Freelancer, was the fact that as the population started to grow on the server and we started to actually regularly fill the 128 slots, the admin was like, well, okay, I think it's time for a new version of the mod then. So he introduced a new version of the mod, which was fine, but it added like a ton of new systems, a ton of new ships, a ton of new weapons. Most of it wasn't balanced. And what happened was people from other servers that were dying, that were shutting down because there weren't enough people to support them, were coming to what I felt at the time was like my server. And they're coming to my server and they were picking the ship that was the most overpowered. And they had no idea who anyone was. And all the stuff that had kind of built up to make, you know, the best clan on the server, the one I was in, just disappeared. Over the course of like 2 weeks, it went from being a case of, I know what all these ships do, what all these weapons do, to I don't know what that ship is, I don't know how fast it goes, I don't know how good it is for maneuverability, I don't know what weapons it's got on it or what they do either, and the guy flying it has no idea who I am, even though I've got this tag on my name that says, it literally just, basically XEF just meant one of the best PvPers on the server.
Yeah.
But no, like, hardly anyone recognised that, because the older players that were there because they loved the mod were disappearing because the new mod wasn't as good as the old one. You know, they changed it up, and they changed it up in a way that meant that all of the old balance and all of the old tactics and all of the older people who wanted to be there just felt like it wasn't their game anymore. It wasn't their server anymore. And so they started to disappear. And it only took a couple of weeks, but I was just like, this isn't what I wanted to play. Like, I wanted to play what I had before. And with the people that I was playing it with, now that's gone. You know, the very basis for what brought us all together playing on this one server is basically gone. So what do I do now?
Do you think like there's sometimes it could be a case of like, go away old man, your time has been had, sort of thing? I mean, I guess some people could be watching this thinking, well, you're just moaning about like changes which have come in. But I guess like in my defense to that question which I've just asked myself, I would say like it's not really about it's more to do with about the change in direction of a game. I mean, World of Warcraft is a great example right now. I mean, obviously, I'm a bit more clued up in it than I was on the hotfix now after watching this guy's video where he spoke about a lot of the changes. But that game now, there is no point to play the game. Like, you get to level 100 and you can immediately, the same day, effectively go into the raid finder. Now, what about all of the dungeon progression? What about if I say to you, remember when we played Burning Crusade? You would play the normal dungeons to get gear for the heroics. Then in the heroics, you would get badges, which you would then use to buy. I remember getting I think it was tier 4 warrior shoulder, which took us like a couple of weeks to do. But there was still a point to do it, and there was still
and
let's do the
PvP
heroics
for gear as well, wouldn't you? You
yeah,
do the battlegrounds
I had the shields. Yeah, I remember
because there was gear in PvP that was okay for PvE as well, which would kind of get you. It wasn't like it wasn't actual like instance gear, was it? It was like halfway between heroic and instance, but it was enough to get you into like
the shield
Kazaran,
was a big
for
one.
Instance.
Yeah, I remember the shield was a because I tanked Kazaran, which is the only WoW raid I ever did. Like, but. The Gladiator's Shield Wall, I think it was called, had a massive armor value on it. The stats were like resilience, I think, at the time, which had no effect in PvE, but the armor value did, and it was like really good, and that would make your sort of you get up to the armor cap, so you wouldn't get. I think it was I don't know, was it monstrous
crit,
blow or something? Yeah, it was crit basically. You couldn't get hit for like damage that would instantly kill you, sort of thing. It was like an artificial wall they put in place to make sure you were geared, like to sort of tank for it. But like I remember going through and even with Wrath as well. I remember doing it Wrath. You'd go to the Argent Crusade and all that shit. You'd get there. There was a point. You see what I'm saying, guys? There was a point to actually spend months after you've reached level cap, playing the game, getting better gear, getting to know people who you would group with, and stuff like that. Even with the Dungeon Finder, which I don't think's inherently a bad thing. But then we fast forward to where that game is right now, and if there is no point doing any of the instances for what I think a lot of them basically just give you like you get a bundle at the end when you do it, which is like 50 garrison resources and some other shit. Like the people have said, and again I'm basing this off what people have said on the WoW subreddit, but it's more effective to just log in for 5 minutes, send all your boys off on a mission, and then just log out, unless you're doing a raid. And it's like, well, what is that? You know, a lot of them say it's just level 100 Farmville now, and that really, you know, it could be a good or it could be a bad thing for that game. Now, the good thing is it might cause them to go, oh, well, we really need all of this progression back in the game. Or they could just be like, let's try and make it even simpler. I don't know, and get more people to come.
You'd kind of hope that the loss of 3 million subs would point out to them that perhaps they're doing something wrong.
I'd hope so.
That's something where it kind of... Well, I mean, we said on the Hotfix, it's like, when people say, oh, WoW's dying because it's lost however many subs, well, it's still got 7 million. That's a vast number for an MMO. But on the other hand, because of the fact that WoW's numbers are so inflated, like they're so over the top for the type of game it is, when they lose people, it's also kind of like I'd say impressive, but I'd kind of hope for them a bit scary, because it's like, yeah, you got 7 million subs, but on the other hand, if any other game lost 3 million players, holy shit! I mean, that would wipe most games off the face of the planet. It would just be gone. There'd just be no population.
It's like Games Workshop, really. Like, I mean, they've got like they've lost players, but the profits are not too bad because they've increased the price of the subscription in a lot of regions. So they've offset the loss by increasing. I mean, maybe they even anticipated the loss and were like, okay, we're going to slightly increase the thing. Which, like the Games Workshop comparison, is they just keep increasing the cost of the models. So their audience may go down, but the profits stay the same or actually get a bit better because, you know, they're charging more for like 5. I mean, a lot of some of the Games Workshop stuff, some of the box kits, which I can't quite remember. I mean, I actually, like a land speeder has not changed since 2000 easily. You know, how much was that in 2000? And now it's probably 4 times as expensive.
Well, one of these, that's a Centurion. Heavily modified, but that is a Centurion. And a box of 3 of those is 50 quid.
Yeah, I mean, that
is an insane amount of money. Honestly, it really is.
I mean, like, you can argue and say you do get a lot of time out of them, but the Centurion maybe not the best example. Like, I was thinking of stuff which was like it's been out for years and has had a
yeah, that's true.
Dire Avengers. So if you don't know, like, I'll try and make this simplistic, guys, in case you're not like into 40k. But Dire Avengers used to come in a 10-man box. Yeah, these are Eldar troops, right? Like Eldar elite infantry sort of thing. But then when they changed the box art, they put them in boxes of 5. And basically charge the same price as they did when it was a 10-man box. So now you'd have to spend double the cost just to get the same number. And it's like, those are like ways companies will do things, so it still doesn't look too bad. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how the players moan or any of that shit. The only people who care, all right, who will make changes are the people leading these companies when they look at their results. And if their results are horrendous, like the Liberal Democrats, so then you just capitulate. and leave if you're the leader, right? But that's the only thing that really bothers them. There can be outcries all the time. There can be outcries like there were outcries in EverQuest. There was a forum called EQ Flames, right, where people would just like go crazy because this was like 2000. This is before Reddit and stuff like that. Obviously, before fucking Facebook and shit like that. Before YouTube, actually, in some cases, you know, people would be like, "This is fucking bollocks," and devs would read it, but devs don't care too much because they're told what to do by the bosses who are controlled by how much money the game's actually making. You know, so if this guy from the WoW subreddit, he's put down a lot of valid points, and clearly people are behind him, but who's he when it comes to the 7 million subs? You know, who reads the subreddit? Who even reads the WoW forums compared to the entire player base? You know, these are for people like us and you guys watching this video or listening to the audio version. You're very into your games. You're into it. You get into the communities and all of that stuff. There's a lot of people don't. They just don't. They're just like, you know, I mean, I'll give you a Call of Duty example, Mr. Kirioth. Like, I know a guy who plays Call of Duty, right? It hasn't got Advanced Warfare. But when I showed him Advanced Warfare on my PC, he did not like it because of the exosuit. He was like, what the hell is that? That just looks terrible because you can move so fast. Because that's laughable to me because I'm like, well, this makes it better. It's more of a Twitch shooter. But to the COD player, that means that suddenly he can be taken from behind now, because COD is a game which generally moves around in a circle. You know, you kill people, then they spawn there, then they spawn there, then they spawn there. You know, and it's like a constant fight. But this was like, they might spawn there, but they can go and come behind you and then shoot you in the back, and then they're like, well, that's not skillful. You've killed me in the back. But these are like, it's like, you know, I don't know. It's weird things, and I just think like sometimes we can be a bit disconnected because we're so into it, and we think like, yeah, we might be the vocal minority. We may say things like we want this change, or we explain how the game has gone to shit and people agree with us, but in the grand scheme of things, the only thing that's really going to make these companies change is if they lose money.
Well, this is the thing as well. It's very easy to forget, especially when you're kind of as involved as we are with essentially what goes on in the industry every day, that we are not the people making a difference to these companies in a way. What's making a difference is not the vocal minority, it's the silent majority. You know, the people who want change are the ones who shout the loudest, but the people who are happy with how things are, you know, negativity always comes to the top, doesn't it? It's always like, if you're happy with how things are going, you're a lot less likely to go and say, hey guys, just really like the way things are going, it's brilliant, really carry on, woohoo. Like, people don't do that. No. Whereas if a change comes in, even if it's minor, people will turn up and go, what the fuck is this? This is terrible, this is absolutely shit, why are you doing this? And then like maybe 1,000 people will agree. But then again, like 10,000 people have expressed no opinion one way or the other, and they're the ones, in fact, that the opinions really, you know, their opinion is taken for the most. It's like when you look at YouTube videos and stuff. For every person who bitches in the comments, there could be like 500 people who have just watched the video. Well,
there is. I mean, we
left. That's it.
You know, we put a video up, gets thousands of views. It doesn't get thousands of comments. It might get 50, 60, 70 comments. You know, what about all the people just watch them and that's it? I think though, with like the vocal minority and, you know, shouting about negativity, I think one of the issues there is I think it's too easy to just be like, we're going to ignore them, even though they might have a valid opinion. Now, okay, sometimes they won't. They are just people shouting because, oh, I don't like this change. And it's like, okay, that's great. But if there are valid points, and it like, wow, I mean, let's be honest, the figures speak for themselves. If you've lost 3 million subs and you're down to 7.1, the lowest in your, well, not in your history because you were lower in vanilla as you went up, but the lowest as a result of an expansion pack and like pretty low numbers for WoW, you have done something drastically wrong. And if the audience say, well, we think this is what you've done wrong, if idiots like me and you, who are kind of the player base who are not hardcore WoW, who only played it because we thought the expansion would be good, and then we got told, well, we got sold down the river because it was just, as we said, a level 100 Farmville game, and it was crap. You know, we stopped playing. You've got to listen to our feedback. You know, what will make us go back to that game? Well, if they came out and said, right, well, I'm afraid what we're going to do is go back to this system and that system, you know, of something like Burning Crusade, then maybe. But I don't think that'll happen because they don't want to upset all the other people they've slowly brought in over the other expansions where the game has become more accessible, you know, like easier to play with. Well, not easier to play, but like you can do as much as you could a few years ago in half the time or a quarter of the time. You know, it's much, you don't really have to. I mean, do you remember when the level 90 boost came out?
Yes.
And I wasn't too fussed about that. I was like, well, to be honest, I would have fucking lost my mind if that came into EverQuest 2 when I was playing that at the time. But like now, I'm much older. You know, I've got a job, so I'm like, I don't really got 10 hours a day to fucking play World of Warcraft. So if I wanted a mage at level 90, well, I'm just going to buy him. I'm not going to play and level him up because I don't care. I just want to get to the end of the game. So, you know, attitudes do change.
Well, that's the thing as well. It's like, there seems to be a thing where it's like, oh, casual is bad, or oh, this is too easy now. I think we should have hopefully moved on to a point where it doesn't matter how casual it is, as long as it can also cater for the people who don't want to play casually. Because you don't want to. The fact is that game developers, publishers, they don't want to lock out specific markets. They don't want to just say, well, we haven't made our game for you to piss off. No one wants to do that. Oh. As someone who creates anything, you want everyone to enjoy it. That's why World of Warcraft has steadily got, as many people see it, easier. That's why YouTube videos are titled the way they are. That's why they've got thumbnails the way they have, because it's a way to get the audience in. It's a way to get new people in to see you or see your video or play your game. So I don't actually have a problem with the fact that things are getting like easier in games, as long as there's an option for me to play it harder if I want to. That's the problem. It's when there's no option for the people who do want to do the grinding of the instances and stuff.
Exactly like EverQuest, exactly like the experience I had last Friday playing EverQuest 999 or EQM or whatever they bloody call it. That was like, I forgot that type of experience. You know, like I even said when I was streaming, I was like, look, you know what, if a game like this came out right now, I would be all over it. If somebody made a hardcore MMO that was just like that game, you know, like to just give it a quick explanation before I move on to the, well, I'll let Kiri say what he's been playing. You have no map. You would have to draw a map. You would have to draw a map. You know what I mean? You don't have you don't have some magical map, do you, in your back pocket when you're in the world? It's like you would have to draw the map. You know, to get quests and stuff, there's not a thing on somebody's head. Bing, bing, bing. You have to speak with people, and they will have certain responses you can say to them. Well, I say to NPCs, which then may make them say something else. So I was in Nerak, which is the Dark Elf city, which is under Nectulus Forest, and I'm just talking to NPCs randomly. I speak to one guy, and he's like, oh, there's some halflings in Neck Forest who are an affront to Inaruk, which is the Dark Elf god of death and destruction. This is the disgrace. I want you to bring me their heads, and I'll give you a reward. You don't tell me what he's going to give me. And I'm like, okay. You know, but that was from speaking to this guy, typing in responses to him speaking back to me, and then you feel like you're part of the world, no matter how bad the graphics are and whatever. It's like, you've just had a conversation with an NPC there. You haven't just clicked on him and spammed through the quest text and then gone off and collected 5 boar hoofs and brought them back. But the way it was delivered was much better. It's like the trading experience as well, which I did quickly go over on Hotfix, where there's no auction house. You actually have to go up to somebody and ask them what they are selling, and they will show you their bags that you can look in, and then you agree on a price, and then you go on your way. It's like, you don't just search for an item. You know, I mean, it's like, those are like experiences which are like, wow, you know, I could get behind that. You know, and just like the simple things like you need food and water, else your character will just starve to death and die. But it makes sense, doesn't it? If you're walking around with food and through a desert, you can't just keep walking like you're some sort of pet. You know, getting a boat, like travel, is a major thing in that game. It's not like I get on a flight link and go somewhere, or I just instantly port over there. It did become that, right, with Planes of Power, because you could just, and well, druids and mages could port you in EverQuest, right? But they could only port you to certain places. Like druids could point you to the, I think they were called Stones of Power. It's like Stonehenge, basically. There was a few of them around the world, sort of thing, and they could send you there. It was a way of covering a large distance, but it wasn't accurate, because you might still have to run an hour to get somewhere anyway. But it's better than running 5 hours, you know, because you. But a druid could sell that as a service. It was like, I will selling ports. It's like buffs in the game as well. People could buff each other. You didn't have to be in a group, but people would sell their buffs. So enchanters had a thing called clarity, which made your mana regenerate faster, because this took a very long time to regenerate, because it's EverQuest. You know, it's not you've killed a mob, you're instantly back to full. You'd have to rest and do whatever. So the clarity buff was expensive. Things like Spirit of the Wolf, which made you run faster. You know, you could sell these buffs. You could literally make a killing selling. You know, that is like, it's a different. Well, and actually, the thing, and the thing I was saying with the travel as well, boats. If you went to a place, right, and waited at a dock for the boat, you would have to wait for the boat, and the boat could be some time. It could be an hour, because it's a boat. It don't just appear and take you somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, so there's this like that whole like gaming experience is something I will be very shocked if anything like that turns up again. I think Kickstarter was probably. I mean, I think Brad McQuaid, who was the Everquest guy, did start something on Kickstarter, but it looked really terrible. Like it looked like a half-assed effort.
I don't think there's a market for it anymore.
No.
Like a big enough market to sustain it. I mean, obviously there are people who want to play that kind of thing. Otherwise, you know, Everquest 999 wouldn't be a thing. You know, it wouldn't exist.
But it's only got like, you know, it's got like 1,000 people on its one server, and it's got a PvP server with a couple hundred on, and that's it, you know.
And that's the thing. It's like that is not marketable to any for any. If you go to a publisher these days and go, well, I've got a game idea, but I think about 2,000 people will play it. They'll go, sorry, what? No, there's the door. Out you go. It's just not. I mean, whether it's a positive thing or not, I don't know. As long as that stuff's available, like. I don't really have a problem with the way games go as long as people are able to get what they want. Like, if the people who want to play EverQuest like that have an option to play EverQuest like that, then bring it on, bring on the change.
They do have an official server, which is sort of like a delayed progression server, but it's not like 1999 where that is like going back to the glory years of the game, like what people think. Anyway, Mr. Kirioth, what have you been playing this week?
Well, this week I've actually played quite a bit. I managed to finish my Marines. Well, some of my Marines, and I thought I'm actually going to play properly some games this week because I feel like I didn't actually play that much last week. I played Regicide for quite a bit. I keep saying Dawn of War Regicide, but that's just like a vague hope. Warhammer 40k Regicide, which is essentially chess, but based in Warhammer 40,000. In fact, it's based on the game that's mentioned in the lore, which the Space Marines play as like tactical training, which is Regicide. When I did the video for that, people were kind of like, there are a few comments where people were like, oh, why are you praising this? Why are you saying it's good? Don't say that because they'll make more of it and all this kind of thing. And I kind of read it. And at first I thought, well, maybe I should have been more harsh on the game. But I actually shouldn't have done because it's a perfectly enjoyable game. For what it is, which is essentially a Warhammer 40k themed chess game with like a modified chess mode where you've got different abilities for units. It's good. It's enjoyable. The units are well designed. The actual look of the game is fine. The sound is a bit off. Like the bolters don't sound right. They sound a bit weedy.
Yeah.
You know, like if you want proper bolter sounds, you need to play Space Marine effectively because they absolutely nailed it. But I can't really hate on the game for not being the actual game I wanted. It's like I wasn't sitting there going, I'm absolutely gagging for a Warhammer 40k chess game because I wasn't. But on the other hand, that's what was given to me, so I can only judge it based on what it wanted to be. And so far, I mean, I've played a few games of the Regicide mode. I've played 2 games of the chess mode, which was totally pointless because I'm absolutely terrible at chess. But I'm genuinely now quite looking forward to the campaign because I think they've shown with the trailer they put out, the teaser trailer for the campaign, even if the gameplay wasn't as interesting as it was, which I am finding it quite interesting, the campaign looks like if it's all got that much effort put into it, that could be quite good. Like that could be an enjoyable thing. I don't know how tiring it's going to get essentially playing the same game mode over and over because I think that'll be an issue. Like I think that probably will be a problem. But if you wanted to just blast through the story, then you could always just put it on NAB mode like I have it and go through it that way.
Maybe they'll change the board. That would be interesting. They change the design of the board because then it would be more like, you know, an XCOM-y style thing going on.
That's the thing. I mean, what I want is an XCOM style 40k game.
So what everyone wants.
That's what I really want. I'd like. Or I'd even take like a Necromunda 40k XCOM game because that would work as well. That setting works perfectly. It's a small squad based.
Yeah, in the Hive cities, it's just gangs, isn't it? Killing each other basically.
So that would work for me. But for the moment, Regicide isn't actually that bad, and it did prompt me into like I played a couple of games in it, and then I thought I actually fancy more 40k. Well, you know what do I do? So I started playing Space Marine again, which I haven't thought about playing for ages, but actually playing the single player through. Because that is a game that never gets old. Like, if you put it on the hardest difficulty, turn the sound up, and just really enjoy the fact that you do feel like a Space Marine, just ripping the hell out of orcs, it's really enjoyable. But it does lead me back to, whenever I play that, I just kind of think to myself, every now and again, where's the second one? Like, I can't help but think to myself, this was supposed to be a trilogy. Like, THQ said it was supposed to be a trilogy. The game designer for Space Marine said, well, we had great plans for Captain Titus. He goes on to found his own chapter. And I'm just like, I want to know what happened, but I can't. I don't know if I'll ever know. And it makes me a bit sad because I feel like fantasy's getting all the good stuff right now. Because fantasy's getting like well, they're getting Total Warhammer. Not Total War. I'm just going to start calling it Total Warhammer. It sounds better. They're getting Vermintide, which is like the Left 4 Dead style thing. I'd just like to see 40k get something like that. I know we had the trailer for Battlefleet Armada.
It's probably it's probably easy just to piss about with fantasy because it's not so like cut and dry. It's not like, oh god, you know. I think to be honest though, with what you're saying, Regicide, because I played a little bit of Regicide on the stream the other day, and like it is okay, right? It's not bad, right? My issue I had with it was that stupid teaser trailer is not indicative of the game at all. It makes it appear as if it's some sort of survival horror game based around an inquisitor who's getting slowly fucking taken over by chaos, you know, or some crazy shit like that. When it's not. But it's also, I mean, the thing is, the 40k universe is massive. Their IP is like, the possibilities with that are absolutely endless. And for them to just have a chess game made seems weird, but it's not really that weird because the amount of like mini games they have constantly made all of the time anyway. So you know, like you named a ton. Well, apart from Total War Warhammer, which is obviously not a mini game, but like Vermintide. Okay, maybe calling that a mini game might be a bit too harsh to it, but it's from a low budget developer from a small publisher, so it's not some massive AAA game. Yeah. It's just like a little shooter. I also what's the Mordheim? That's a fantasy-based game, again from basically the same people as Vermintide, essentially, or from the same publisher. You know, that again is like a lower-budget game, and it's like, okay, not, you know, it's okay, it's not
and
too
we've got
bad.
Battlefleet Gothic as well, which is the same publisher again.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with Focus, but it just seems a bit weird that it's like, I don't know why they're piling all their effort into these games when they could just, you know, they could bring out something.
There could
massive.
be one immense game. I mean, like, the last immense game I'm going to say they've done is probably Space Marine, but it was short and it was a bit crap at the end. But what they gave you for what the enjoyment you got out of it is the only game that you feel like a Space Marine. Like you are a killing machine, but you can die. You're not some sort of invincible god, but you are solid and you can run around and wreck orcs. I mean, orc boys, you're gonna butcher them. Knobs, it's a good fight against the knob, you know, and stuff like that. So that was good. Dawn of War 2, I enjoyed Dawn of War 2 and all of its expansions. Chaos Rising probably the most. That was slower paced than Dawn of War. Now, I know a lot of people tend to prefer Dawn of War. I'm going to say I prefer Dawn of War 2 because it was a little bit more tactical, right? And a little bit more representative of what was going on in the universe. Okay, it was still stupid where, you know, like Eldar just getting mowed down left, right, and centre, and tactical squads weren't big enough for Marines, and, you know, blah, 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 and God knows what. But it was still more tactical. Dawn of War was, I have thousands of Eldar, my amazing dying race, who are all being butchered on the battlefield. But it doesn't matter. I will build thousands more. It was a big spectacle.
Like 20 tactical Marines. Just spam out Devastators like there's no tomorrow. The spectacle of it was really, really good, but the actual like accuracy to 40k was not. Like, it didn't.
There was a game
like that way.
THQ were developing this, and this then turned into the MMO, then got cancelled, and then THQ went under. It was there were screenshots of this, and it looked fucking amazing. It was like an RPG thing, and it looked dead good. There was like Black Templar in it and stuff like that, and it looked like what the. That's what I wanted. I was like, holy shit! You know, can you imagine a game like an RPG style game like The Witcher, where you play as just like you can even just play as a standard Marine and just go through a story that they've invented? It would be insane. It would be holy shit.
I would kill for a Witcher type game where you play an Inquisitor.
Yeah. What about a you know, a game in a similar vein to like Sins of Solar Empire or something like that, where you've got the I forgot what they've called, or what's that genre called?
4X.
Yeah, exterminate, expand, something and something. That's what I want. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine like an empire management game like that, where you are the Imperium of Man and you are expanding your domain, you're reclaiming back civilizations that have become lost from the Imperium, and you've got all of the ship combat, then you've got ground combat, you've got management, you've got, you know, because you could install governors to control the fucking cities. I mean, Jesus Christ, there is a lot there, but it just seems like at this moment in time, possibly with the exception of Total War Warhammer, we've just got a flood of these games, which, I mean, like Battlefleet Gothic, we don't know too much about that, but it just looks like it's probably just going to be ship combat.
Yeah,
which I guess is Battlefleet, you know, Fleet Gothic, but how is it going to be ship combat? Is it going to be you know, is it going to be enough
style? Is it going to be like
meat to it? Yeah, is it going to be like really tactical? Is it going to be turn-based? We just don't know. You know, what about Vermintide? That's just a Left 4 Dead.
It is essentially just Left 4 Dead.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay. It makes sense with the end times and all of that stuff, because I think the Skaven wrecked everyone, didn't they? Or some shit, I don't know.
Yeah, the world's exploded or something.
So, you know, they do make sense, but they are like these little budget games, and I don't know. I just wish there was a mega 40k game, and hopefully, if, I don't know, Total War Warhammer does okay, we might see a 40k version of that, which I'm not too sure how that would work, but maybe we'll see a new 40k RTS game. Honestly, I want to see Dawn of War 3, and I want an RPG.
Yeah.
I don't care about that MMO either. That MMO looks really shit. I'm just going to come out and say that right now. Eternal Crusade.
The issue that I've got with
really
that is that it has been years in development, right? It's taken fucking ages to get to the point where it's going to have an open alpha, I think it is. Not even beta, I think it's open alpha. And yet, the gameplay is just the gameplay from Space Marine. How have you spent that long building something that uses exactly the same mechanic, literally exactly the same? The fucking, when you see the Assault Marine jumping around, it's just the guy. It's just from
even lands the
Space
same.
Marine.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I have very little hope for that game, especially since like there have been numerous comments that have kind of crept through, especially on that video I made a while ago about their founders pack being a bit dodgy.
Yeah,
like people seem to misunderstand that as well. It's like the whole point was that at the time of them like saying that founders pack, they were like, you can buy everything that's currently in the store like 3 times over, and that was the selling point. That was my issue with it. It was like, are you serious? You're basically saying that you can buy every bit of content currently available for the game 3 times over. How much of an advantage are you going to have over everybody else when the game launches? If you save it all and stuff, someone's just going to have no progression whatsoever, and that was the problem. But people since have left comments on that, or sent me messages via Steam or on Twitter, kind of going, I think you're probably right about Eternal Crusade. It is not going well. And that's like, that's worrying to me, because I don't want any game to fail, but especially 40k, because I like 40k and I want them to make good games.
I think it's just a remnant of like, oh, MMOs make money, let's do an MMO. It's from, you know, when WildStar was being developed, when all them other games were being developed, which look at them now, they've gone nowhere, sort of thing. You know, what's that other FPS shooter thing which had the idiot guy managing it, and it was like you were like in the god, you know what I mean?
What I mean, guys?
But they bought like a crazy buzz to promote it, which was like completely pointless, and it cost like hundreds of thousands because it was like decked out as a mobile LAN thing. But yeah, like I think like Eternal Crusade is it's going to suffer with the same problems PlanetSide suffers with, which is just, you can't have bases and bases and bases with people attacking them in a big fight. They win the base and then it converts and then it's instantly taken by somebody else. It will become boring. You just simply be involved in combat, Space Marine combat, over and over and over again with other people. It will become boring, right? Because Space Marine multiplayer is okay when it's PvP, but way better when it's Horde defense. Way better when it's the whatever it's called, that mode where you just fight like hordes of orcs. That is way better, right? Because it's like, holy shit. Because
I
it is a game.
Play that. I still play it. I really enjoy
the multiplayer of that is easily abusable because you just get the best build and kill people.
Yeah.
And that's all that this Eternal Crusade will be. And I just think I don't think it will do very well. Anyway, the next game, Mr. Kirioth, that I played last week was Wolfenstein Old Blood. Now,
oh yes, I watched part of this.
Yeah, I think it took me 6 hours to complete it on Uber mode, not Ultra mode. Uber, yeah. It wasn't really that hard, I'm gonna say. Now I'm not terrible at FPS games, but let's just say if you're pretty confident getting headshots, you'll be okay. Like I killed most of the enemies with my silenced Luger, which is an amazing piece of kit, and but just the standard assault rifle. Like I didn't really use any of the insane weapons running around with like dual fucking assault rifles and stuff like that. I used like some of the crazy stuff just for the sake of it, but it was more efficient to just go around popping people's heads, essentially. But yeah, like that game was what I expected it to be. It was Wolfenstein The New Order, just shorter and worth 15 quid. That's what it was, and it was exactly and it was nice to just get something which was exactly what I expected it to be. It was like, okay, I expect the graphics to be fine. I expect it to work good. I expect it to have the same stupid Wolfenstein humour. I expect it to be over the top. I expect it to be loads of Nazis for me to kill. I expect there to be stupid weapons, which I could potentially use. And I expect there to be crazy Nazi occult crap going on, which there was. And a lot of it took place in Castle Wolfenstein, which I didn't expect, which I thought was pretty good. Because the whole, like, if you've played, there may be spoilers, guys, so shut your ears off if you don't listen to this. But if you've played New Order, Death's Head, I think his name is. He's like the crazy Nazi general man who invented all the crazy Uber soldats, like and the mental dogs and the stuff which the Nazis used to win the war, yeah? And the whole point of Old Blood is to find out where his lab is and then assault it, because the very first mission of New Order is the assault of Death's Head lab, which, as you all know, you fail. And that's why the Nazis win World War II, because they've got insane fucking electrified Uber soldats and all kinds of shit, which you cannot possibly kill because they're insane. So you're in Castle Wolf and you're trying to find the documents for, you know, where the guy is, sort of thing, and it's ever so good. Like it's just stupid Wolfenstein. It's just like over the top. The gunplay's great, old school FPS game. It takes the piss out of itself as well, because you go down into the village, which if you've played Return to Castle Wolfenstein, you go down into the village in that to meet your contact, who's this like overly English woman. It's just so English you just can't believe it. Like the most English accent ever, like even more English than the Queen's accent. It's just ridiculous. But like you've got no top on. You have literally just got a pair of trousers on, and that's it. Because you're just like running around naked, and she keeps making comments about like how you don't have a top on, although she doesn't mind because he's like BJ, which is just dead funny. He's like massive. He's like 10 foot wide. It's like stupid. It's like what is going on? But then she says, "Why don't you take a rest?" And you have to put your weapon and put a put your weapons away, because you can't use your weapons because now you're going to impersonate a waiter to get next to Helga, the horrible from the Nazis, because you need to find out like about Death's Head's place, obviously. So you open up a crate, and then there's a bit where you're putting your weapons in, but like I've got 10 weapons or something, and he's just like pulling weapons out. It's like assault rifle, and there's like, you know, shotgun, sawn-off shotgun, Luger, and it's like doing this bit, and it's just funny. It's like they are clearly taking the piss out of themselves, because like how are you holding all of these weapons? You know, it's a piss take of like Call of Duty in those games where it's like, oh, you can only have 2 guns. It's like, no, you know, games of old, the FPS games of old, Duke Nukem, God knows what, you just had like loads of weapons. Quake,
like,
you run around with
every orifice.
Doom, loads of weapons.
I need an assault rifle. It's fine. I've got one in my back pocket. I would probably end up getting that because I did enjoy.
It's really good.
I did enjoy the New Order
for what it is.
The thing I really liked about it though is like, there seems to be a kind of trend where companies assume it's like, oh, you gotta have multiplayer. You gotta have multiplayer in first-person shooters. It's gotta be multiplayer.
Yeah.
The Wolfenstein games are just a proper, a
single player
experience. Yeah. They're not open world. It's just like linear, but it's just like you basically get strapped in for an insane ride that is really over the top. The writing is funny. The level design generally is pretty damn good.
And it looks
the enemies are ridiculous,
and
it looks good. It sounds good. It's really over the top. And you can play through the whole thing in one sitting, and then just sit there and go, "Oh God, I've been here for like I don't know how long." But you don't care. You just keep playing.
Yeah, it knows it's like stupid and cheesy, because when you get thrown in prison in Wolf, right? Yeah, when in Castle Wolf, you're like in a hole. It's like, oh, I'm in a hole. You know what's going on? And then there's like a glowy, like you can see behind like a brick, like in the wall. It's like, oh yeah, I need to click this. So you go to click on it, and he puts his hand in to get it, and a rat bites his hand, and he's like, ah, like that. So you don't get anything. It's like, oh right, you know. I think then you get it, and it's like some letter. It's like a pointless bit of like the law letter or whatever. But then behind him, there's an exposed pipe on the wall, and it's so obvious. It's like, well, why would there be an exposed pipe? Now, because he's BJ and he's massive, he just rips the pipe off the wall, don't he? And rips it in 2. And then throughout the game, this is like, it always keeps coming back to these pipes. It's totally stupid. It's like the pipe is like your melee weapon. Like you're killing dogs with a pipe. You're killing these big Uber soldats with a pipe after you've disarmed them. You use it to climb up walls, and it's like the big Nazi general guy who's like the most like SS looking Nazi ever, right? It's like, he's insane. He's going to murder you. He's strapped to an electric chair, and he takes your pipe and he rams your pipe through your fucking thigh, so blood's coming out the end of the pipe. So you're like, like this. Then he electrocutes you, but like you just take it because obviously you're solid. But then he's asking you for information. He's like, where are you from? And all this shit, and you're like, well, you're like nothing. BJ is like, I'm gonna kill you, and then I'm gonna kill your dog. And he's like, nine, and it's like he's trying to kill him, but then obviously, you just go crazy and like smash the guy's head in, throw him in the electric chair, right? But he still survives this. You get the pipe his dog, right? It's just so stupid. But then later on, when you kill this guy, he's got like massive armor for some reason. He just goes running through the door. He's got miniguns, and he's like firing at you, and it's like you're killing him. You're knocking bits of his armor off. But then when you kill him, what do you kill him with? The pipe. You press, like, it's a quick time event, but he takes his helmet off and he gets the pipe and he just sticks it in his head. It's like, what the? It's just stupid. It's so stupid, but it's like, it is an enjoyable like 5 to 6 hours on the hardest difficulty.
Yeah.
The only problem I got with it is the boss is really shit at the end. Like you get to the end and it's just like, that was a bit shit. But like the ride up to the end is totally playable, and I'd say it's totally worth the price they're asking for it. It's standalone as well, so you don't need the other game. Although maybe it does make sense if you got the other game because you'll know some of the characters from that, and you kind of know like why you're going to Castle Wolf, but you also know the outcome. Whereas like all the characters in the game don't know the outcome because obviously it's before what happened. It's like a prequel standalone thing, but it's very good. I think it's fine. You know, it's totally fine. I'd recommend it.
I think I'll end up getting it because I really enjoyed the New Order, and it just looked like more of the same over the top mentalness, which
I don't think it's as over the top. I don't think it's as over the top. Like it's not like on a scale of crazy mental Nazi murdering. New Order is like 100. This is like 70. It's not like as crazed, but it's still crazy. You know what I mean? Like New Order's got a lot of good bits in where like there's a lot of like dialogue. Like I remember the bit on the train where you have to like impersonate the. I think it's the waiter again on the train, and you're like, you've got like the serving tray, and you have to hold it level because you spill the drinks on it, and you walk up to them, and you're like, oh, and it's all like retarded and stupid. But yeah, it doesn't take itself seriously. It's stupid, but it is good fun, and it is nice. I like the fact that it's very successful. Well, New Order was successful, and I guess this will be successful as well, because maybe we'll see more of them. Because even going back to last year when New Order came out, it looked shit. Like I thought it was going to be shit because it was like all the stuff they were showing you was like quick time events. There was a Wolf game that came out before that, which I only played a little bit of, and that really was bad.
Yeah,
you had like loads of crazy powers and shit you could use.
I can't remember what it was. Was it paranormal something or other? Was it called? I can't remember.
I think it was in Castle Wolfenstein again, but
that was not a good game. I remember that. I remember that much. But that's the thing. I do like that the Wolfenstein games have not only kind of come back again, but they've come back and they're actually good.
Oh yeah, they're the best ones. They're just literally the best. Return to Castle Wolf's quite good, but that's not like silly. Like that's more trying to be serious for the time.
I think I prefer it when games know they're being like stupid and embrace it than when they try and be serious and like it doesn't quite work. Like I've been playing the GTA 5.
There's the zombies, right? In it because like zombies, you know, right? So the town like blows up because they've opened this crazy occult tomb of fucking nightmares, and like when people die, they turn into a zombie, but they don't just turn into a zombie normally. Like the Nazis will come running around the corner, and it'll be like some of the SS Paranormal Division Nazis who were like the super Nazis, and you're shooting them, they die, and then they explode into flames, like, and they go, ugh, and they start coming to you. It's like what? Like why explode into flames? It's just so stupid. But yeah, it made me laugh. Oh man,
it's like I do just much prefer that. I mean, I've been playing the GTA 5 single player this week as well because I was like, I wanted to start doing modding. Like, I wanted to start installing mods for GTA 5.
Yeah.
But then I read that Rockstar was starting to ban the shit out of people for modding. Now that they've said they're not going to ban people for single player modding, which they've actually stated that, and they've said, like, you can mod, feel free to mod, we won't ban you, we'll stop doing that now. So I'm going to look into it because I thought it'd be good, well, for the channel and also because modding GTA was one of the things I wanted to do with it when we first heard it was out for PC.
Yeah.
This was going to be released for PC. But I thought, well, I can't enjoy the single player. I'll play the single player a little bit. I cannot play like that game in single player without getting like severely messed up in the head by how it tries to be stupid and serious at the same time. Like, I enjoy the single player and I like the gameplay. I think pretty much in terms of what it is, GTA 5 is the best example of, well, a GTA game. It's like they've got pretty much everything right. The cars handle well, the aircraft are fun to fly, the characters are funny, but they can't seem to work out whether they want to go like full satire and just take the piss out of themselves, or whether they want to introduce actual like human interest stories. And they try and do both, and it's stupid. It just doesn't work. It's like you cannot go from Michael kind of having a genuine crisis like over his identity and like how his wife treats him and how his kids are useless, and then go to Trevor, who punches a fucking guy in the face and then like stamps on his skull because he said something about his what is like a woman or something. You can't do that. Like, you can't run around as Trevor in your fucking pants and a dress, pulling people off motorbikes and then running them over with their own stuff, and then go to like what's his name, Franklin, kind of having the whole I've grown up in the hood and I don't like being the person that I am. It doesn't work. It's like it just jars so much to the point where I got about I think 2.5 hours in this week, and I'm just like, I enjoy it, but I can't enjoy it for more than like half an hour at a time now because I think the first time I played it through, it was like everything was so new and so different. It was like, oh my god, it's GTA 5. I kind of overlooked the fact that really the story's totally shit. Like it's just bad. The characters are really badly written. The action they do is stupid and don't make any sense because they try and be serious, but they can't be because it's GTA. But this time round, every time I do it, I'm just like, can I skip all of this? Like, can I have a single player game where I don't have to like mess around with the online system or wait for ages to get into a server where I could just like mess about without having to do all of this crap where none of these characters know what they're doing or apparently whether they're supposed to be serious or a joke, and just get to the end, the bit where you got all the money and you don't have to like sit around listening to these idiots talk. And
I don't know about that. I mean, I think like I've only played it through once. Okay, I haven't played a single player since, so maybe I am suffering from like, oh god, it was GTA 5 and it sold me down the river and I can't believe it. But like, it did make me. I think it was one of the better single player things I've played because I did get that thing where I wanted to keep playing it just to see what would happen because it was like, well, what is going on? It's just so stupid. Like there were times where it really did make me laugh out loud. Like I would be like, what? Like, but it, like you said, it is kind of over the place, but it would like all over the shop. But there were like, it is just a piss take of American excess. That's all it is. Like, but then it tries to be a bit serious. But then it's like there are moments where I'm trying to think of a moment where it was just stupid. I can remember the bit where you go into a film premiere, I think, and you're in like a limo.
Yeah,
and like your son's hanging out the roof, and like I remember the bit where you chase down the boat that's been stolen, you know, because the son's fucked up, and it's like, or where the son's playing
blowing
Call
the
of
guy's
Duty.
head away with the phone as well.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the guy's
yeah,
doing
yeah,
the Life
yeah.
Invader press conference. Like, the thing, I love those moments.
Which
I really
is the big
like them.
Facebook
But
mistake, yeah.
I think it's just because I think the first time I played it through, it's like I was paying more attention to the fact that I'm playing GTA 5. It's, you know, it was. This is like the last hurrah for this console and playing it on, which was the Xbox 360. It looked surprisingly good considering the hardware it was on. You know, everything kind of blew me away about it because it was everything that I wanted GTA 4 to be and more. Because GTA 4 was a bit disappointing. It was it was too serious. It was way too serious. GTA 4 and GTA 5 was like the over the top bits. I think I was still kind of riding the high from the over the top stupid bits, whilst the serious bits were trying to happen. And so I kind of overlooked them. But now that I know the story and I know what's going to happen, and like I remember specific missions and how they start and stuff, it's like, oh, this is going to be good. But then there'll just be a little bit where it's like, okay, we need to make these guys not just like caricatures, so something serious. And then it happens, and it's just a bit like, it just doesn't quite fit as well as I remember it fitting, and it's kind of taken me out of it a little bit. But
I mean, it's because you played the multiplayer first. Like me and you played the multiplayer, and it's so stupid, and we're just like our characters just look absolutely ridiculous, and there is no seriousness there. It's just fucking.
No, I
stupid.
didn't think about that, but I think it could be that because you have such freedom in the multiplayer to do whatever the hell you like, and the characters look however you want them to look straight away. And they don't have the thing is as well. Your character doesn't have a personality in multiplayer.
Yeah.
Even in a heist, you don't say a damn thing. You just do what you're told. But then again, the personality kind of comes out when you go out into the street, you're trying to get into a military base, and you're sniping people in the head, or you know, getting blown up by tanks.
Some personality,
doing whatever you like, and it's like you've kind of picked up the game in multiplayer, and essentially you're playing the part of just a mental person, like you're just doing mental stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's so kind of over the top and so ridiculous that now that I've gone back to the single player and like the mental actions are being tempered by the fact that there's a story I've got to go through, that it's like I'm kind of almost reacting to it more harshly than I would have done if I hadn't have played the multiplayer. Because I had played the multiplayer as well. I did a couple of races. I did the first part of the next heist that someone else was hosting. And I did a bit of free roaming about where essentially I got on my armoured car and I just started hunting people down for the sheer hell of it. I got killed more times than I can count, but it was like it turned that server into just a massive war zone. Everyone was just driving to Ponsonby's, I think it was, because there was like the entire road was full of cars that had been blown up by missiles and grenades and shit. And it was just ridiculous. It was so over the top. And then to go from that to kind of going into the single player where it's like, okay, let's play some GTA. Let's do something crazy. And then you get a cutscene. And it's like Michael going, oh, why are my kids so shit? And it's just like, I
don't know. I thought it was pretty good. I thought the single player was pretty good. Anyway,
well, that's the thing. I mean, I really enjoyed it the first time. I'm just wondering whether I might have to just skip it, just go straight into the modding.
Well, I'm not going to bother with it again. I ain't going to bother with it. I ain't even loaded it up on the PC. I haven't even played the multiplayer.
Yeah.
Well, another game I played, Mr. Kirioth, was Blitzkrieg 3. Now, this I've never played a Blitz. I've never played a Blitzkrieg game before.
And it nearly killed you.
It did. So I thought this was like Company of Heroes. I thought this was like a cover-based RTS World War II game, right?
Right.
So you've got like tactics. You can't like just build units and send them out like to their death sort of thing. You have to like use cover, use correct infantry against tanks, you know, hit them from the rear armor, you know, do stuff like that, you know, not just send everyone in and they all die or they don't, and then just build more because it doesn't matter. Well, the first thing I did was I played the multiplayer, and I was in for a massive shock because I had briefly read the description to the game, right, but not in much detail, and I thought, right, it was a... Do you remember? Did you ever play End of Nations?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
It was an RTS game, but it was a online only MMO RTS. I had the alpha to this, and you would spawn on a map, right, and there would be other people, and you would attack them, right, and try and kill them, right, and take over points on the map, and that's how you would win. But you would spawn with a specific type of unit build, right? So you might be an artillery guy or the tank guy or something like that. I thought it was going to be like that, right? So maybe there'd be like a paratroop division or an air division or, you know, a panzer division or something like that you control. But it wasn't. It was Clash of Clans.
Just like World War II skinned Clash of Clans.
Yeah. So you have a base that you upgrade, right? And you build defenses around your base, right? And then people come and attack your base, and if they can beat your defenses, they take your fuel and your supplies, which they then use for building their own base. The only difference is, when you go into the attack, you actually control the units in the attack. So this means you can abuse the game, because you can get into positions where your tank can fire at a pillbox, and the pillbox can't fire back at you, and then you kill the pillbox, even though the pillbox is like an anti-tank thing. You know, there were things like that, and I thought, okay, this is a bit weird, right? So I stopped playing the multiplayer because I didn't expect that. But it has got a single-player system, which is historical battles, right? So it put me in I forget what the battle was, but it was Russians against Germans. I was playing as the Russians, right? I had to protect 2 anti-aircraft guns while German units kept coming at them, right? But there was no resources. There was no anything. I kept constantly getting reinforcements. Like, constantly. Every time units died, I would just get more units and more units and more units and more units. I'm like, okay. There was kind of like tactically, I wasn't playing very well. I know I wasn't playing very well because I just realised I was getting free units, so I could just send people in to die. There was none of this, like, get the tanks in defensive positions, dig them in, or get the infantry, like, behind cover. The only thing you could do cover-wise is you could put infantry in trees, and when they were standing in trees, they had a bit of, like, bonus defense or something going on, or they may have been invisible until they fired or something like that. It wasn't much though, and it was very like, there are not a lot of options here. So anyway, I had to protect these 2 anti-aircraft guns, right, which I did. And then the next stage come in, and it said go over here and take the Nazi control point, which just means get your units in there and capture it. There was a load of Nazis there, like way more than I had, but they're all like static. They're not coming at me, but I'm still getting attacked, right? So I leave a few units behind to protect these AA guns, and I just send units in. And I literally am just attack moving units in, because more keep coming across the bridge. When they die, they just keep coming. You do get some abilities which you could fire down, like some artillery strikes and stuff. But that was kind of it. And I was like, okay. The only good thing going for it was graphically it was pretty good. But I just don't understand why that is even a game. Like, it is literally, multiplayer is Clash of Clans, which is really weird. There seems to be no like direct, I'm going to have a game against you multiplayer. You know, like, I guess we could go back to Warhammer and just say like 1,800 point armies each, and then have a go at each other. It was like, no, because it was just, I could attack your base. I think it's called asynchronous multiplayer, where it's offline. Like, I can only attack you when you're not playing the game. It's exactly like Clash of Clans, exactly like all the clones of Clash of Clans. It was really weird, Mr. Kirioth, really weird.
I mean, what were I don't know what the previous games were like. Surely they weren't like that.
Same. I mean, I don't know.
Sounds like a really, like, just a bad mix. And if you're going to go mobile, go full mobile. If you're going to go RTS, then go RTS. I don't see how the two could possibly exist together without, like you say, there being like options to abuse it.
Clash of Clans, the reason why, like, it's a very simplistic multiplayer, like combat. But the way it works is you just spawn units and they run to the nearest enemy structure and attack it effectively, right? Or if they're ranged, they might fire. Or some of them may be like like, I think there's like little goblins, and they would run after the gold, so they would ignore other stuff and try and nick gold before they died, sort of thing. But it kind of prevents, to a point, like abuse, because you don't have direct control. Because if you did have direct control, you could easily circumnavigate people's defenses dead easy in Clash of Clans, because you could just be like, right, I'm going to send these barbarians here, but then they're getting attacked, I'll just move them back and I'll go over here and do that. There is a Warhammer clone of Clash of Clans, Drop Pod Assault, I think it's called. Oh, no, it might be actually Horus Heresy.
It's Horus Heresy Drop Pod Assault, I think.
Yeah. In that, you did have like command points. You could only use them a few times, but what they would do would set rally points for your unit, so you could run your Marines and then move them away, which was a little bit of added tactical shit. But Blitzkrieg 3, you could just got complete control. It's like an RTS game, but you're against static defenses. So you've got like complete control of the unit, so you can go in, attack, and move away, or go and find an exploitive bit of. I mean, there was a guy on the Steam forum for the game was like, I lost everything. I had a Panther, that was all I had left, and it took me about an hour, but I managed to like sneak it around the side of the map and take the HQ. It's like, well, that's just shit. You know, that's never going to be balanced, because the way the defensive system works is exactly like Clash of Clans, basically, where you build defensive structures in set places and then just hope that they're fine. You know, but you can't put them all by your your fuel, for example, because then they could get you supplies, or you know, so you spread it out, and it's
if someone's got direct control and they're fighting just like a static line that can't be moved and isn't under control or supervision by someone else, then it's never going to be balanced, because you're always going to be better than just a turret stuck on the ground, because as soon as you look at it, you'll be able to find out ways to get around it. So, what a weird system. That's just mental.
Did you play anything with there?
I think I was going to say I played a bit. I think maybe last week I said I played what was it called? Gods Among Us. Injustice, Gods Amongst Us.
Oh yeah.
I played the single player for that, which was all right. I mean, it was funny.
I tried to play Mortal. I think you said that last week. Yeah, I tried to play Mortal Kombat single player the other day, and then turned it off because it was just quick time events. Although I think there was actually fighting in it, but when it started, it was quick time events. Quick time,
just quick time events. But for Mortal Kombat 9, I seem to remember that had just hours and hours of it, like hours of quick time events. They cut scenes, but they tried to make them interactive. But it's like the point, because the fighting, for some reason in the Mortal Kombat games, at least recently, the fighting is kind of not the important bit of the game when it comes to single player, because you have like cutscene, story, and then it's like, fight this guy. So you fight him, and then it's like another 10 to 15 minutes of story, and it's like, what the hell is going on here?
Quick time events are just a poor excuse for gameplay. Like that's when you can't introduce a system that's more interactive, so you just like spam a button. It's crap. And I was honestly not in the mood for that, so I got rid of it. And well, I mean, there are other games I've played this week. I played Verdun, which again was last Friday, but I'm including in this week because we didn't cover it on that podcast, which was well, it's the best trench FPS game there is, because it's basically the only one. I know there are other ones, but it's like the best. It is good. I thought that was pretty good. It's more like I guess you could say semi-realistic. It's not like an arcade game. It's also not like a simulator, but you get shot, you're dead. You're not like getting shot and then you survive. You're just dead. You know, you've been shot, you're dead, sort of thing. There's no like things like spotting and stuff like that. Like like the Battlefield 3D spotting system. None of that. You just have to like hide in no man's land with your scope and like just look down an area and just sort of, then you see movement, take a shot. You know, it's like that. It's more like that kind of semi-realistic thing. Solarix was a game I played as well, which again was from last Friday. It was the worst game ever, so I'm not even going to talk about that. I played Euro Truck Simulator, which spawned a crazy video on the channel, which you've probably seen by now.
I missed that moment by it was literally a matter of seconds. I came in to this room and I sat down for the computer just as essentially just as you recovered the truck from it being on its side in a field. And I was like, and all the chat were going mental. And I was like, what's happened? What's going on? That has got to be one of the most ridiculous moments that has happened on the stream, just pretty much ever, surely. Again,
so in case you didn't see it, go and watch it. It's just the live radio shout out Euro Truck Simulator 2. Because basically what happened was I was driving around in Euro Truck Simulator because I had nothing to play. I was getting angry. I was trying to play games that were broken, all kinds of shit. So I was like, yeah, somebody in the chat went, go and play Euro Truck Simulator. I said, all right then, I'll do it. Right? And surprisingly, it's quite relaxing. But anyway, I'm driving around and Then I realised you can actually turn the radio on in the game. Real life radio stations. And I'm like, this is like a whole new level of immersion, right? So I went to, it was like Radio Clyde 2. It's apparently like it's like one of the biggest radio, it's got like 80,000 followers on Twitter. It's like a big Scottish radio station. Yeah. Because it plays classic music, right? Because I thought that would be funny, right? Music from the 70s and like the 60s and the 80s and stuff. I'm listening to it. I'm just driving around, making a delivery. And the guy is like doing shout outs because it's like the late night drive home thing. And just out of nowhere, he's like, and I'd like to give a shout out to, and so-and-so would like to give a shout out to his mate, Stylosa. He needs pickup. And I just lost it. And I just crashed the truck. I would have killed myself, but it would have been a worthy death. It was so surreal. Like, just think about it. It was a shout out. I was streaming a game, which was streaming a radio station, which a member of the chat, Angus,
which was simulating a truck driver, by the way, driving like from place to place, which is... The fact that it's like a profession that would absolutely happen with. You hear it on the radio all the time where truck drivers get shout outs from family members. The fact that he was streaming a game, which in the game was streaming the radio station for somewhere that you're nowhere near.
Yeah.
And then...
yeah, it was just like, what? It was crazy. It was so surreal. It was just insane. Anyway, right, that is basically all I have played. I have ignored talking about my 40k addiction because I am, well, whatever, I'm addicted and I'm painting models and I'll be painting them repeatedly at various points on the stream.
I have to admit, I've been doing more 40k stuff than I have gaming. I've made an effort to play more games because I felt like I didn't really play anything last week. But I have to admit, it's mostly been about these lads. I finished that lad yesterday whilst the election was going on, so he's nice and done. And basically, I worked out I've got 1 Centurion to finish, 3 of them to base, 5 Tactical Marines and 2 vehicles, and my entire army's done. So I reckon maybe another week, and I'll have a finished army. And you know what? Bad though this is, I've had loads of 40k armies over the years. This will be the first one I've finished. Because I've never finished an army before. Like, I've got part way through, I've painted maybe 3/4 of it. Maybe not so good as standard, because I was a kid and I was crap at it. But I've never had an army where it's like, all of them are painted, all of them are based, all of them are at a standard that I'm happy with. This is going to be the first time, and I'm quite looking forward to it. But I know full well that within about 2 days, I'll be like, I ain't got anything to paint.
Yeah,
I better get another box or something. But I don't know what it is. It's going to be really bad.
It is a filthy addiction, but it's better than being addicted to crack. Although, well, that's more expensive. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the end of Pubcast. So, as I said at the start of this is our very informal chat about games. Now, if you do like the show and would like it to continue, then let us know in the comments below. Also, tell us what games you've been playing this week. And if you really like the show and really want to support this in conjunction with Hotfix, because this is the spin-off show from Hotfix, then please click the card at the top or click the description link to the Hotfix, to the Patreon, the Patreon even, patreon.com/Hotfix, and you can support us there because... these shows do take a lot of time to make, and every bit of support we can get really does help. It'll make us continue to produce the shows, basically. So, and also thanks to everyone who is supporting us on them. So, Mr. Kirioth, have you got any final words of wisdom?
Go and play more games.
Which advice you should take?
All the games. Yeah, I'm including myself in this. I need to finish Bayonetta for a start, but I'm going to do that this weekend. Me and Kat are going to finish Bayonetta because that's a quality game. Although it does mean booting up the PS3, which by this stage is like an ancient relic from a time...
Mine's behind... Well, it's behind one of my other monitors here, and it's just literally not used. I mean, it's got a Wii U on it, which is used even less.
Since we got a Chromecast, the PlayStation 3 has been relegated to nothing. Because even the iPlayer casts to the Chromecast now off the tablet, so there's just no need to turn it on. But it will be used, and I will finish Bayonetta, because there's like 2 hours of that game left, and it's daft to leave it.
I never finished the first one, but the second one is amazing. I should give you the Wii U so you can play... Well, I don't have it because Nintendo took it back.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of Pubcast. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we will catch you on the next one, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck.